Hello my friends, David Kessler here and welcome back to the studio. Today we want to talk about contrast and why contrast is king. In paintings, and it doesn't matter what kind of paintings, contrast is key. Contrast makes your paintings or anybody's paintings more interesting and more engaging. And I've said this before, without contrast, that leads to boredom, and boredom leads to sleep. Contrast leads to engagement with the viewer. And that's what you're looking for ultimately as any kind of a painter, artist, craftsman, artisan. You're looking for contrast or engagement with those who view your work. You want them to find your work interesting, maybe provocative, something that they can engage with to make a connection with you and the work. Right? And contrast takes many forms in painting. Right? Color contrast and value contrast, shape contrast, edge condition contrast, light against dark, fat against thin, big against small, bright against dull. Those are all common contrasts in painting, and they all work together to make your work, your paintings, more interesting. Right? Contrast is one of the most important parts of painting. And you look at people's work that has that contrast, particularly the light against the dark or the bright against the dull, and the dominance of larger shapes and smaller shapes, centers of interest and supporting actors. I mean, all of that stuff works together to make paintings more interesting. The people that can master that are going to have better engagement and more interest in their work than those who don't. Now, whenever I go to any sort of an exhibition, what happens to most people is they go in the door and they go to the left and they start circling around the room with the herd, like a sheep. Well, I don't do that. I go in, stand there, and I look around the room, if I can see the whole thing, and I look to see what the most engaging work is. I look for contrast. I look for the paintings that jump off the wall. And that's where I go first to look. Because I know that if there's sufficient contrast in the work, that the artist has a basic knowledge of fundamentals in how to engage people in their work, how to make that contrast so that their work is interesting. So that's where I go first. And there's plenty of paintings, believe me, in every show, there's plenty of work that I just walk right past it because there's no way that the artist has tried to engage me by using any sort of contrast, right? Which makes it boring, right? If all the shapes are the same size, the values are the same size, the colors are all close, the edge conditions are all the same, there's no reason for me to look at it because number one, it's boring. And number two, I understand that the artist has no knowledge of how to make the work better. They don't have knowledge. They have a sort of an ignorance, and I see it everywhere, right? An ignorance of how to make a good painting. And with all the resources that there are out there today, there's no reason to be ignorant of how to make a good painting. Learn the fundamentals and learn how to implement those in your work. That's what's going to make your work better. There's so many resources. I mean, Mr. Google's full of stuff. YouTube is full of stuff. I mean, just, do some research and figure it out, right? And if you need help with that, then I'm teaching workshops all over the country, right? There's a link in the description below for a list of my workshops on my website. Go there. If you find something that's close to you, something you want to join in on, please join me there. I'd love to have the time to paint with you for 3 or 4 or 5 days in the workshop. If you enjoy these videos, please subscribe to the channel and share them with your friends if you think your friends would be interested as well. And I hope this video was helpful for you, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks.